this is Dale Stratton at Dean Dorton, and we're continuing with our core Excel tips and tricks for accounting and development. Today's topic is pivot tables. Pivot tables are one of those Excel pieces that either a lot of Excel users don't know about, or what they do know seems to scare them to death. I'm going to attempt today to show you that Excel pivot tables are a very easy, very useful product in Excel. Now, in order to do that, I'm going to keep it simple. I could spend quite a bit of time on pivot tables to cover every aspect of them, but I'm going to show you a quick and efficient way to create one. On the screen, what we have is we've got city, state, and classification. Those are three main fields that I want to focus on today. I have these several different classifications of donors in my spreadsheet. I want to add up or find out how many of each type of donor are in each city or in each state. It seems like a daunting task. I've got multiple columns of repeating values. What I mean by that is city has multiple repeating values of Lexington, Bardstown, East Jefferson, things like that. State, multiple repeating values of Kentucky, Ohio, and other states. And classification, multiple repeating values of $1 to $99 donor, 100 plus donor, SPFD 2006 project. So several different columns of multiple repeating values. When you have that situation, that's when an Excel pivot table really comes into power. In order to make a pivot table, we simply click on our sheet, go to the Insert tab, and we click Pivot Table. The first question, it comes up and it says, what range would we like for our pivot table? We want to go from A1 to U49, and that's just simply the entire sheet. I'm going to go ahead and let it grab every column. We don't need all of them, but I'm going to go ahead and let it grab the whole thing. It doesn't hurt. And I'm going to let this pivot table go automatically to a new worksheet. Hit OK. And now we can start creating our pivot table. Something to keep in mind is that pivot tables are not adding data or changing data of your sheet. They're simply pulling information from data. So you can mess around with pivot tables without destroying your data. Now, what I want to look at is I want to look at the city. I have four main areas that I want to utilize down at the bottom. I've got report filter, column labels, row labels, and values. Row labels are the first piece that I want to build, and they're what go down the left-hand side of my table. And I want to see based on city. So I'm going to pull city into row labels, and you can see that it populates the different cities. By default, they're just sorted alphabetically. Next, I want to see the classifications. I'm going to pull that down into column labels. So it makes a label for each column going out to the right of each classification. And it's sorted alphabetically. Now, based on that classification and city, I want to see how many donors there are. Now, I had a unique value in that data set called receipt number or record number. That record number I'm going to pull into values. Now, by default, it tells me it's doing the sum of record number. Now, I don't want the sum because it's adding up those record numbers. So I'm going to come to my value field, choose the drop-down arrow, value field settings, and I'm going to change the sum to count. So it just simply counts how many record numbers fall for where there is a $1 to $99 donor in Bardstown. There was just one. $1 to $99 donor in Lexington, there were 14. That's the information I was looking for. Now, if I wanted to look at my information in a different way, that's where the whole pivot comes into the pivot table, as I can move this around. So for instance, the classification. If I really wanted these to go down the left-hand side, and I wanted my cities to go across the top, all I have to do is drag classification down to row labels, and then drag city up to column labels. And you notice now I've rearranged, just with a couple of drags, all the information in my pivot table. Next, what if I wanted to look in states instead of cities? So I could drag state, and if I don't want city anymore, I drag it out of the column area. So now I see my row labels are still my classifications, and my column labels are my states. Now, if I wanted to put Kentucky first because it has most of the values, to rearrange the sort order, I could click on Kentucky, drag to the left, and now I've rearranged the sort. Instead of alphabetical, I've got my own custom sort that I drug where I wanted things to be. Now, to show the report filter, I'm going to move my city back down into column labels and move my state out. Right, this is the information we were looking at earlier, where we have our classifications down the left-hand side in the rows, and we have our cities across the top in our columns. The report filter, I'm going to move the state field into report filter. And what that gives me the availability to do is choose the drop-down arrow, and I could filter my pivot table by anything that I put up here. So for instance, I just want to see Kentucky. So I say OK, and now Bardstown, Lexington, and Springfield show up. If I just wanted to see Indiana, click Indiana. There's the Volunteer Prospects in Georgetown. And Ohio, now I just see the two cities of East Jefferson and Parsons. If I want them all, I click All, and now I have all cities back. So the report filter field allows me to place a field in here and choose which settings or which values in that filter that I want to look at on my pivot table. Now this is a very elementary, very basic pivot table, but all I have to do is just keep dragging fields and keep playing until they get the data that I'm looking for. Thank you very much and have a good day.